So this is very special for me. It's been a couple of years since I was able to come into an episode and talk about the year or the summer I've just had in my cottage rental business. Well, I can't do that anymore. So I have invited Jennifer Whaling, who is the founder of Cottage Stays in Ontario, somebody I know, somebody I've been involved with on committees and in our managers association, and I've invited Jennifer to come on and tell me about her summer. So this is going to be a little bit of a trip down memory lane for me, Jennifer. Part of it I'll be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm glad I wasn't there. I'm sure. But thank you so much for joining me. It's such a pleasure to have you with me.
Oh, wonderful for me too, Heather.
Can you tell a little bit of your story, where you're located, how you got into this business in the first place? It's the question I ask everybody to start with.
So I started about 7 years ago. We are farmers in southwestern Ontario, and we decided we're looking to start retiring, sold the chickens, got rid of the pig barn, and we thought, let's get a cottage. Now we're not locked down to our farmhouse here. And I bought my first cottage. I used an agency and I thought, you know what? I can do this better and make it more personal and really connect with my guests. Because it's scary when you're hosting guests and using an agency and you don't know who's coming or you know how many people are, maybe, and if there's pets, but it's quite scary. So the second year, I started Cottage Stays. There was my cottage, my cousins bought a cottage, a neighbor. I went on Kijiji. So that first year I had 5 properties, which is great. Then you know you're doing something for real and we need to get proper processes and communication in place and we can have lots of fun with it.
Wow, how many properties do you have now?
About 45.
That's great. That's great. Your story is almost the same as mine and the same as many other people. You know, you start off with your own and then it's a relative and a neighbor and yes, take on board anything and everything to start off with. And it's beyond that when you begin to get, a little bit more specific about who you want, and we'll go into that a little bit more, because I love these stories of how small companies begin to grow. So we're going to delve a little bit more into that. But tell us about your location and your business model. Is it? I know when I was in the business and when I started and somebody said, oh, you'll only rent July and August and you won't do anything else. So I'm quite interested to hear what your business model is up in your area.
So I focus in on a certain area within about 20 to 30 minutes of my house. That way I can drive by, I can attend to any issue. I wasn't really confident in dealing with septic issues over the phone, right? I used to be in a technology company where I did telephone internet service, but I still wasn't confident helping that person, reset the water heater over the phone. I'd rather just drive there and fix it myself. We've even had it where the septic alarm went off in the middle of a snowstorm. The trucks were pulled off the road. But there are these 2 old ladies and the septic alarms are so loud. So there we go, my husband and I in the tractor off to hit the reset switch for these ladies, right? And that's the kind of service I wanted to provide, is to provide that extra level of comfort. So we mostly focus in on the municipality of Blue Water, which is the village of Bayfield. So we have 2 types of vacations. There's the normal beach type of cottage vacation, and then we have the village of Bayfield location. It's a charming historic hallmark village, which is popular basically any time of the year. All of our properties are pet friendly, which people don't always tell you if they're going to bring a pet anyway. So let's just cut that question out. And we really lean into it too. We have a housekeeper who makes homemade doggy treats out of the pumpkins that I grow here. And we write a little special card, saying special treat for Fido, and we put their name in. People eat that up. They don't really care if we write a special card for them too. Welcome Jane and family to blah, blah, blah. But when you write a special note to their dog, they literally eat that up.
I I think that's amazing, and I talk a lot about the whole pet friendly side of this business because so many people want to go on these vacations because they can bring their pets. That this is the beauty of what we used to call in England self-catering.
Yeah.
And you bring your pets, you bring your food, you do your own cooking. It's like taking your house and putting it in somebody else's house. And I just finished reading, and I'm probably going to mention this in every podcast for the next 6 months. One of the best books on hospitality and customer service I've ever read, and that's Will Guidara's. Having said that, I've just completely forgotten the title. Will Guidara's Unreasonable Hospitality, and he talks in that about something, a couple of, well, loads of stuff. And it's one of those books that I've got highlights all over the place. Tiny doses of excellence, and just those little things that can make such a difference. And he says in there that you can make these grandiose gestures of hospitality that cost a huge amount of money, and it doesn't give sometimes anywhere near as much joy as those tiny doses of excellence do, like those dog biscuits. So that was a long way of going around saying I think that's amazing. I love that. What's unique about your location, particularly in the Ontario market, is that the majority of agencies, of property management companies, have very widely dispersed properties. Like we had 200 properties, but they were all over the province. So we were relying on, we used to say it's like herding 200 cats, because every single property had its own cleaning team, its own maintenance people that we could call on. And it was tough. I love the idea of keeping it all close to your home, close to your heart, obviously.
Yeah. It means it opens me up to, in a certain area, there might be a certain thing that happens. So 3 years ago, we're all located on the bluff of Lake Huron, and Lake Huron is known for the most beautiful sunsets in the world. However, being on the bluff, that one year the lake levels were so high, and we lost all these beachfront cottages no longer had stairs, and they weren't going to be repaired. But it meant the same message going out to a whole bunch of people, and a lot of bad news, right? So really,
Mm-hmm.
and we also had short-term rental licensing come through, and that hit 3/4 of the properties in my area. So you kind of have to pivot and stuff. But when things go wrong, it's like there's a flavor. One week it'll be all doorknobs, right? And another week it'll be all umbrellas. So we can prepare a team and do proper training, right? And say, oh, go to this place and do that umbrella, then this one, then this one, then this one.
So how many people? So it's just you. It's not just you and your husband. You have other people within your team.
Yeah, so it's just myself. My husband, he's an emotional support.
We all need one of those.
Yes, yeah. And then I have Lee. She's been with me right from the beginning. She is the one who handles the uncomfortable emotional situations. So, you know how when guests arrive, I talk about caring for mom. What are the things we can do for mom? Because she's the one who's envisioned this wonderful vacation. And when she gets there, she's got to make the beds, and the kids are hungry and they want to run down to the beach, and dad's sitting there with the beer, and it's not turning out how she wanted. So when you get that first 8 o'clock complaint, Lee's the one who can handle and go there and give mom a hug. Or if the guys are parked all over the yard, she'll give them the grandma stink eye.
I love every company needs to have a Lee.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
And this year we also added Shauna. So she's our guest services. It has been a godsend because I can go home and I can breathe. I don't have to run home and see what are the emails and what are the texts, what are the issues that I got to deal with. She tells me what's important and what's not, and makes sure that guests are cared for. So like on changeover day, while I'm dealing with a broken toilet seat, and then all of a sudden there's 3 umbrellas that are broken and there's no more umbrellas in all of Ontario to be bought, right? She's the one who's still making sure that incoming guests know that, yes, there will be a milk jug and you'll be able to find it in this cupboard here, right? Because in Ontario, we have milk jugs.
Milk jugs. Yes, and for those listening who wonder, why do you have milk jugs? It's because our milk still comes in bags. I mean, we do get cartons of milk, but I still buy my milking bags from Costco. Saves me $1, and that's important. So sounds like you've got a good team in place. Let's talk about this past summer. How different has this summer been from the craziness of 2021? Well, it was in fact 2020, 2021, and 2022. Seems like forever ago now.
Yes. So this year, I would say that guests they're not demanding, they're much more happier, but their expectations are higher. We'll never return back to the days where guests have the optional cleaning fee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was only 3 years ago, right? And here we are now. That's just a regular part of the services that we have to offer.
That was always an interesting one, because we were way behind the rest of the US, except perhaps for some parts of the eastern shoreline, where some of bring your own linens and do your own cleaning, that stayed on for a long time. But now I remember seeing just every year those expectations getting higher, because people were going different places, going to Airbnbs in the south, and finding that they walk in, there is no having to make beds, and when they leave, they don't have to clean, which to me is the perfect way of having a vacation. Just taken a long time to filter its way north.
Yes, yeah. We still have linens as an option. This year, Southwestern Ontario was quite wet, and we've had more septic issues than ever before. And that's never fun. And owners, it's kind of hard. They've never had to pump their septic, and this year they had to do it 3 times, and they're not here. So when I say to them, yeah, it needs to be pumped, they don't always believe me. So we don't have linens. It's optional. And then I take the linens out of the cottage, and we have to wash them elsewhere and keep that water out of the septics.
For those of us who are coming on our type of vacation, they most do understand it. They do understand the different elements that are involved. What else was a difference this year as opposed to the crazy years?
You can't. So I have only been in business like 7 years, right? And there's never a normal year. So how am I supposed to compare to, right? Like I thought I had it all figured out, and then we had the year of all the bluff failing, and there was septic, all kinds of stuff, and then COVID hits, right? And so you assume 100% occupancy. And then this year comes along, right? And you've got everything booked, and then there's not near as many cancellations as COVID, but there were a lot, because the traditional 3-bedroom, 1 or 2 bathroom, that appeals to a middle income family, and they were getting scared, So we had to change things up, and I swore I would never do less than 7 days at some properties, and we did. So, but the revenue was there. So it all worked out in the end, but it's seeing the storm coming and, and making changes.
Yes. Well, it sounds like that you've been pivoting along the way. Well, of course, pivoting brings changes, and some changes will become permanent, some maybe not so permanent. So thinking back over the last 7 years, what changes have you made that have been successful in some improving your efficiency?
Efficiency number one would be adding a guest services agent and learning to rely on my team, right? I have a whole bunch of housekeepers, and most of them are not professional housekeeping companies. I prefer the retired lady who just wants to clean, one or two cottages a week and she saves up to go on a birding trip, right? Or the single mom who can bring her child with her and clean a house too. And then the kids, those are great because we send them to the cottages that have like 150 steps. So great, you kid, you go down to the beach, make sure that there's no broken chairs and nothing in the fire pit that we don't want, and make them do all that work, right?
So you've got the guest services person. What else has improved your efficiency?
I use Owner Res, and
Uh-huh.
my property system, it's my godsend. So one of the things this year that we did, we implemented the SMS texting, and that has really improved the communication with guests. And we've taken it a bit further. Before I had Owner Res, I would ask people, can you tag us in your photos or whatever in Instagram or Facebook? And nobody ever did. So then we tried, well, send us pictures of the sunset. Oh, well, then get all these sunset pictures, and my phone would be dinging, and my husband's going, what is going on? Well, that's the sunset pictures. We can't repost that many sunset pictures though, right? So then we had it with Owner Res. If you are bringing your pet, which most are, on day 3 of your 5 or more day stay, you'll get a text that invites you to send me a picture of Ginger, playing at the beach. And that's why if you ever see my Facebook or Instagram, you'll see like on Wednesdays and Thursdays, there's like 10 photos of dogs having the time of their lives.
Well, you touched on two things. The sunsets. People, everybody that I've do it myself, and I'm down in Gulf Shores, and we have some amazing sunsets. And I'm taking pictures, and every picture is the best picture that has ever been taken of that sunset. That's exactly what There's a gazillion people out there taking the same picture of that same sunset, but the one you
Yeah.
took is the best. So that is a brilliant marketing ploy. I mean, and certainly the dogs. You've touched on it with the natural treats. People love their dogs. I honestly think that a lot of people love their dogs more than they love their children.
Yes. Well, dogs don't talk back and they don't know how to swear at you. So,
That's it. And they don't normally leave Cheetos on the couch that, will go under the cushions. And
yeah.
but yes, I love that. Asking them to, that texting, that was revolutionary for our company when we implemented it a couple of years ago, and it made things so much more personal. Do you feel that it's just a really personal connection with the guests?
Yes. So we're implementing right now. It just says, send us a picture of your pet. Well, now this year we can split that out and we can make things with Owner as help and all the custom fields and things you can do, make things so personal. We even have it set up that to send out garbage reminders, and we've used ChatGPT to make the messages a little bit more friendly. So, say for instance, if you arrive on Monday, then on day 5, you'll get a text at 7 in the evening saying, hello, eco-friendly legends, garbage day is tomorrow.
Excellent. Yeah, it was. I remember years ago. Years ago, I went to a session that Matt Landau ran at an event somewhere, and I can't remember where it was. It was just so many. But he asked us to get into groups and just talk about what revolutionized our business and what we did in the way of communication. And one lady there said, I only text my guests, I don't do anything else. And I thought there was something really wrong with that. And maybe, maybe she should have been a little bit more flexible and to appeal to some guests who didn't text, maybe. But I was so anti this whole idea of texting. And then I just switched did a complete 360. Texting is great, and people will respond to a text so much more than they'll respond to an email because it's so instant. But I love that.
And the nice thing is with owner res, or even if you're using touch stay or stay fi's texting capabilities, right? We use owner res. It's separate from my personal phone, which really eat up at me. In the first few years, you think you do everything yourself, and then you're giving everybody your personal cell phone, and there's no split when you need that downtime.
That's great. So let's just go back on this past summer, because I always did this, the worst thing that happened and the best thing that happened. What was the summer like for you in terms of your customer service experience and guest behavior, perhaps, and even how your owners reacted? What stood out for you in terms of the best and the worst?
So the worst thing that happened was a septic that backed up, and I had told the owner to empty out the septic, and he didn't. And of course, that also caused a ripple effect. So the septic gets full, and then the baffles get clogged, and then the basement toilet, which has a pump, the pump quits and it's running all the time, and it ends up going into the shower, and you've got it fully booked, and the owner is not even in the country, and that was awful. And there's nothing I could do. It just sucks, right? The best would be having a guest services person who I know cares about the guest just as much as I do, and she was able to take care of all the funny situations that we have happen. But guest behavior this year has been, touch wood, really good.
Yeah, that seems to be bucking the trend, because I know, I mean, I'm sure you're out there on some of the Facebook groups and hearing some of the stories that have happened this year, and people saying, is it just me, or has this year been the worst ever? I am so happy to hear that you had a great experience. So where are your guests coming from? Are you, I know that you've got a great website, a Jodie Bourne designed website.
Yes.
And so you do direct bookings. What's the proportion direct bookings versus OTAs?
So that's different this year. Last how many years it's been 90 to 99% are direct bookings, but this year was about 80% in the end for summer, just because of having to pivot and fill up those shorter stays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did rely mostly on VRBO and a little bit on Airbnb.
Yeah. Was that new for you, or had you been testing out Airbnb? Because I know from my time with networking with other managers, the majority were doing direct booking, but all beginning to pick up Airbnb and VRBO for their orphan days and their shorter days. So how long had you been using Airbnb?
So I have been using VRBO since day one, and that was to push the off season, right? VRBO allows us to have video. So all of my beachfront properties have nice drone video, and then we also have added Airbnb at the same time, although they're still a different guest, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we know when it's an Airbnb guest, they're not going to empty out the garbages, even though we've told them. But the communication is there, and we have the opportunity of educating them and turning them into a lifelong Cottage Stays guest.
How do you do that?
So with our owner res communications and our SMS texting, you can right away, we're communicating from day one. We also get their email address right away. We have to have that for the rental agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to further market to them down the road. And also, like when they send us pictures of their dog, they end up resharing them on Facebook, which then a year later pops up on their memories, right? Like it's If we can get their dog's photo, we've got them.
That, do you know, I think that is going to be the short video of this episode. If we can get their dog's video and their photos, we've got them.
So one of the promotions that I had done, I have to tell you this while I remember it, but I took a course with Yvonne Holling last year, right? And she helped me do some really good promotions and really got me into taking videos of myself, which I hated, right? And in the most watched video is me explaining this promotion I was doing. And I'm sitting there, and in the background is this bird feeder. And my cat Cookie comes along, and he sneaks up. And in the background, he's swatting the bird feeder. And
Those are the best. You know, the natural. I see that Yvonne Halling is a speaker at Jen Boyle's Direct Booking Summit. So there will be information on the Direct Book Summit on the show notes. And yeah, I'll be checking out Yvonne's contribution to that. So I just want to go back a bit because I had written something down here. Oh yes, it was about the July. We talked about July, August being this. This is the summer season, and me being told years ago you'll only rent July and August, and you won't do anything else. And then you said you've got your waterfront properties, but then there's also the village of Bayfield. When I started in the business 23 years ago, rentals were only water. People would say to me, you will only rent something if it's directly on the water. And of course, Airbnb changed all this because it made virtually anything and everything rentable. So do your in-village rentals get more out-of-season bookings?
it depends on the events that are going on in the area. So in the village is very popular through the summer because there's lots of stuff to do. So that appeals to that type of family who wants to rent bikes and walk uptown and go to the bookshop, all that. Everybody ends up in Bayfield at some point. Just depends on what you're wanting to do. However, in the off season, they are extending it. So Bayfield is known for their Christmas in Bayfield. And it is like we have the Disney carriage that is here, and Santa comes to visit. And now that can be just a season. Well, now they're extending it, and there's Winter Wonderland. So you can come to Bayfield, and there's all kinds of nice lighting and lots of events happening as well. But that's only, say, Thursday to Sunday. The trick comes in extending their stay.
So what are you doing to capture those out of season rentals in terms of marketing?
So summer is easy. So I like to go back to my ideal guest. So my ideal guest is Mother Hen. And Mother Hen in summer, she wants to gather all her chicks together. And in fall, Mother Hen wants to get together with the other hens and cluck, cluck, cluck. They want to get together and create, memories and eat well and just have lots of fun. So when I look at the off season, we look at amenities that would appeal to that mother hen getting together with the other hens. When you think of mother hen, she's the one who worries about everyone else. So she looks for all the amenities in a cottage that her chicks will want in summer and her hens will want in the off season. But what I guess I would say the most important amenity when you look at cottage photos is the dining room table. Because maybe you remember, have you ever seen the packing list that some of these people come with? And it's all centered around food. So Mother Hen has this picture perfect vacation, and that dining room table and that kitchen needs to be equipped with frying pans that aren't rusted out and flippers that aren't melted, and a nice big dining room table that everyone can gather at and play games and eat.
So how do you go about capturing those hens?
So we have, through our social media, we look for video, and we were using stock photography and stock video. However, last year with my guest services, she is in the 30-ish range. So we've actually started sending her to cottages with her friends. So she'll be in the hot tub in the winter with their toques on, and having nice charcuterie boards, so that people can see that real women are gathering. We'd like to do more of that as time goes on in those larger cottages and have varied age ranges of couples and women getting together. It's really easy to market the 2 to 3 bedroom, one couple vacation where you show, a cup of tea or coffee and a book and a fireplace. But it's the creating the memories. You can make more by renting out the larger cottages, and we have stay-fi devices in all those cottages that attract more than one family. So that means that we're getting, not only are we getting mother hen's contact information, but we're getting all the other hens contact information. And we use that in our email marketing as well as in meta advertising, which is not as in your face. So even if they didn't subscribe to my campaigns, right, they still can get it through the meta advertising.
Can you describe the meta advertising a bit more?
I just feel recently in the last few months that I've got a handle on it and I know what I'm doing. It's very similar to when you're in your Facebook and you see the Airbnb ads or the VRBO ads. So we're playing with video and similar type of ads too. And we're also interspersing in with it, instead of, the main cottage feature photo, we're interspersing in who I'm trying to attract. So the one we're starting with next week will be older ladies who are sitting around a campfire and eating at a dining room table. Nice videos like that.
And I think that's, that really is the key, is getting people to see themselves. That's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want to be doing. I have used a photo many times from a property in Costa Rica I went to with Mike and Andrea. Oh gosh, it must have been nearly 12 years ago now. And there was this fabulous villa, and it had an infinity pool. And in the picture, there was a lady lying on a floaty in this infinity pool, just lying back, sunglasses on, and all you could see was the end of the pool and the ocean. And that was me. I want to be the person in that picture. I'm going to be lying on that floaty looking out over the ocean. And I think so many people don't see that you've got to start with the person that you want to attract.
Yeah.
Because once you've got that persona, you know who that person is, then you can design anything that is going to appeal to that persona.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that real video works better than the beautiful stock photography we can get from Adobe or Canva. And that was hard to switch that, because I've got extra weight, extra wrinkles. Look at all the gray hair, but everybody, those are the videos of myself, when coming soon, they get the most hits, which is funny.
Yeah, when I talked to Kerry Phillips at Kerry Gibson at Chalet Huga in Quebec, and we talked about her use of exactly that. And I'll put a link to Chalet Huga in the show notes if you want to go and take a look at Kerry's site, because it's very similar. There are people in these photos, and they are people doing the things that her guests are going to want to be doing, sitting there with a cup of coffee in front of the fireplace, or riding a bike through the townships. And it's simple, but it is time consuming though, Jennifer, isn't it?
Yes, but you can reuse it, year after year.
Yeah.
So when I look at the upcoming season, I already have a lot of social media in place. We have the pie trail. So there's literally a map that we provide, and you'll see it on my social media too, of the places that you can go to the pie trail. And you have to end at Zurich's Meat Market because they have a pie menu. So you walk in and there's a menu of all the pies you can get.
Oh gosh, my gosh! Now I'm feeling the need to come to Bayfield. So yeah, great marketing tactics there. You've mentioned something, doing more videos for 2024. Is there anything else you're going to do differently for next year?
I'm going to get more regular with my email campaigns because I've invested in the Stay-Fi devices. We've done it once a month, but I think we can easily do once every 2 weeks. And we also have the capability. I used to sell contact management systems. So my gold mine is my contact manager. So when I first started, I started with 5. The next year, I bought a company which had 12 properties. The value in that company to me was not the properties, because he was all concerned about the properties and the owners, and that's wonderful. But I knew there was 5 years of emails that he didn't have this contact manager. So I spent all winter going through all those email addresses and who's a potential owner, who's a potential guest. And now when you ask them, what is your purpose of coming? And you're trying to vet them. We keep track of what they do for a living. So if they are if it's a ladies group or it's getting together with your sisters, right? Now I can pull that out and send a specific email just to those people. If we have, what's her name? A novelist coming into town, then we will send an email to all the teachers, professors, novelists. We have 3 Harlequin romance novelists who book in the off season. When was the last time you read a
Harlequin novel?
I still get them, right? So we'll let them know whenever there's a novelist going to be in town, and yeah, so that's what I want to get more targeted on.
Yeah, that is that's perfect. In my tipping point episode this week, I talked about rich guest data. Following the breadcrumbs in emails. There's always a breadcrumb in every email, and it could be that you've got to follow up on. I went to Barcelona earlier this year for a conference. And I dropped so many breadcrumbs into my email. I am traveling on my own to Barcelona. That's the first thing. I have only been there once before, and I'm traveling on my own. I've only been there once before, and I'm going to a conference. Now, those to me were 3 very specific breadcrumbs that told them a lot about me. And they did nothing with it. And it's just so frustrating that I would have loved to have had some information on how to get from the property I was staying in the middle of Barcelona to the conference center. That would have been, they told me how to get to the place from the airport, but they knew I was going to a conference. They knew where it was. They also knew it was a vacation rental conference. So they missed that amazing opportunity. But yes, breadcrumbs, for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to Monday's Tipping Point episode which I think I've called Stepping Up the Guest Experience, then go back and have a listen to that, because there's a lot of nuggets in there about exactly what Jennifer's talking about collecting this information and then storing it so you can use it next time you target these people. I love that you're doing all this, Jennifer. It really is so impactful for everybody. It's for you, for your guests, for your owners. So just for a moment, how do you build your relationships with your owners? Always interested in this one.
Yeah. If I can meet a potential owner face to face, they will most likely sign up for my services. I've tried a number of ways in the past to communicate with them, but they're like everyone else. They're not reading. So we do weekly owner statements, and in there, I'll include information on what marketing plans we have in place, what promotions we're doing. We even give them examples of the guest communication that we've given to, like when there was a particular heat wave, I sent the owners what the text was that guests got on how to keep their cottage cool. Because a lot of, especially lakefront cottages, don't have air conditioning. So shut your doors, shut your blinds. So we wanted to let owners know about those avenues. I spent months putting together an owner's guidebook, and I thought everybody would use it like the Bible. They don't. They still call me all the time, but I struggle there too. Like, do I say to them, oh, just look in the guidebook? But no, because I still want them to come to me to create that relationship. If they only need a book, then they can go somewhere else as well and figure it all out themselves.
Oh, that's so interesting you say that. We went through for years, how do we get owners to read stuff? And we created oh my gosh, we got these folders, and I spent hours and hours putting all this stuff into folders, handed it to them. They never opened it. Then we put everything. I think we used we used some contact management system, and they had a knowledge base. So I tried putting everything on the knowledge base, and then we went in using the Touch Stay guide. We used that as the owner manual. You can only go so far. You can take the horse to water.
Yeah. And the owner's guidebook, though, is helpful for all the new owners. So yes, you still get a lot of questions, but a lot of them have already, the basics are there.
Yeah.
So we still have trouble with owners deciding to stay until 4 p.m. on the day that we're trying to get in and get ready. But the general gist they're getting and understanding by having that guidebook in place.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go on.
We're also going to be doing annual meetings, and that's where I reached out to you because coming off of that summer high, I was so happy with. We have Operto VR scheduler, the teams, and the housekeepers. They're all on board, and they're reporting issues, and we were able to fix umbrellas all the time and replace remotes. I now carry universal remotes in both of our vehicles so that I don't have to run and worry when a dog has chewed this remote. I carry an extra Fire Stick and a Roku, and because it's cheaper for me to have that $35 piece of tech and give it to the guest than worry about and try and figure this out before the next guest comes and right. So I'm trying to, after all that hubbub, we had it where one owner called and he was really upset because the cutlery drawer was disorganized and the pots and pans weren't stacked the way he likes, and there was a piece of trim loose and a doorknob loose, and I was like, so I thought, okay, just take a breath. 10 minutes later, I got an email from another owner. This is a more luxury property, and the big screen TV in the fun house was broken. You couldn't tell. It was, when you turn it on, there's a big crack through it. And then I just broke down and I thought, we have been so on it. What is going on, right? Then I have to stop and step back. That first owner with the utensil drawer, he's a heart surgeon. So when you think of it, I want my heart surgeon to notice everything else going on around there, right? So if he's upset, you know what? That's okay, right? But it's hard to put on that helmet when, you're riding this high and you're feeling so good and everything's tickety-boo and yeah.
You sound like you really handle it well and you've got a great team. Tell me, we're just getting towards wrapping up time, but I want to talk a little bit about the Ontario Cottage Rental Managers Association. This was something that Craig and I sort of started out way back, and it started out very quietly and then began to grow just a couple of years before we sold our company. How do you find being able to network with other property management companies?
Well, it was interesting because when I first joined, everybody else was so huge, and I was just a little fish in this big pond. And I had all my cottages were in one little area, and you all had cottages everywhere and seemed to know what you were doing and had it all together. So it's neat to be able to get to know everyone and realize, oh, we all have the same bear that's driving, right? And the geese problems and the skunks and
Yeah, I
so
think that's what did it for me. That very, very first meeting we had, and it was in a hotel in Aurelia, and there were 4 or 5 of us, and we sort of all came in together and said tentative hellos because we'd never met face to face. And then we sat down, and 4 hours later, we just had not stopped talking, and you suddenly realize that you all have exactly the same issues, and just getting somebody else's perspective on it was second to none. It was that was a lifesaver for us at that time.
yes, for sure. For my business, last year, another cottage rental agency member did started with water sports equipment rentals. Now, I can't do canoes because I'm not going to ask you to drag this canoe 100 steps down. But I can do blow up paddle boards and lake mats because there's no rental place in my little area.
Hmm.
It had closed down; they had all ratty stuff. So but I can provide this, and that would be something that we would deliver on Sundays and pick up on Thursdays. So it's been another service that we're able to provide to our guests. And this year, I don't know if you were still there, but insurance has become an issue in Ontario if you're renting out your cottage. A lot of companies don't want to touch that, or they assume that you're an Airbnb and you rent 350 days a year, which isn't the case. A lot of my owners only rent 3 or 4 weeks, and that's
Hmm.
it. So we were able to find a company, a local company, and we all now have been able to offer our cottage owners here, you can contact this company or that company, and they've got great Cottage Plus insurance plans, right?
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's that is the power of collaboration, and I love to hear that. Okay, just wrapping up now. You've mentioned a lot of things in your tech stack. You've mentioned OwnerRes, StayFi, Operto, VR Scheduler. What am I missing?
I use HubSpot as my contact manager.
Right.
No, I'm not married to it. As long as I had a contact manager, I can make it work right. I got it because it has 2 users and you can have unlimited contacts. You're limited in your marketing contacts, but we change the flavor of our marketing anyways. So right now it'll be I can pull out all the ladies groups and it fits within your
Yeah.
marketing contacts that
So
you
so are
have.
you still using the free version?
No, I use the paid version.
Okay. Okay. And you'd mentioned TouchStay. Is that your TouchStay user as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I've got StayFi, Operto, VR Scheduler, OwnerRes, TouchStay, HubSpot. That sounds
Yes.
like a really powerful tech stack.
I used to be in the tech industry. I used to own a company in Stratford. In fact, when you read or watch Justin Bieber's biography, you'll see, oh, his mom had a low-paying job. That was me. I hired her.
That's brilliant. Except, yeah, his mum had a low-paying job.
It wasn't low-paying. It was a great job
It
for
was a great.
someone who just graduated, not knowing anything about website design. I take offense to that.
Great claim to fame there, Jennifer. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I wish we could do it longer. I really want to get back into the OCRMA in some way, so we should connect again at some point in the future. Are you heading to the Women's Conference in Nashville?
I am not.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not.
such a
But I
shame.
am doing the direct booking success and
Well, both of those will be listed on the show notes for anybody who wants to go and have a look at that. The Women's Summit in Nashville in December, and the Direct Book Summit, which is this week, if you are listening to the podcast on the day of publication. Thank you, Jennifer. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this.
thanks, Heather. It was nice seeing you again.